he grew up in a single family home. His mother basically raised 3 boys in rural Oklahoma.
Single parent.
Single parent.
So no dad, father figure in the house.
He had a father figure, but his father was an alcoholic and a womanizer. So basically, he wasn't in the home. So consequently, he grew up very insecure because he didn't have the father in the household. So and he was non-athletic at the time. It wasn't until he joined the Air Force and got stationed in Korea where he joined a martial arts class and he realized what martial arts kind of did for him. It, gave him this confidence. So and a lot of people don't know this either, that, Chuck Norris failed his first black belt test.
So he didn't even start martial arts till he was 18, 19?
He started training because back then judo was popular in America.
Okay.
But karate really wasn't.
Right.
So what happened to him is when he got stationed over in Korea, he had a broken arm.
Okay.
So he couldn't do judo anymore.
Okay.
But he was walking and he looked over this hill and he saw all these heads bobbing up and down. And he looked down and there was all these Koreans doing all these crazy kicks. And he was like, well, man, my arm's broke, but I think I can do that. And he went down there and joined the class and, goes up through the ranks. He fails his first black belt test. So basically he said, man, it was like 30 degrees outside. They were barefoot and they were all sitting down. There was like 50 of them. And it was his turn to come up and do what they call katas, which are the prearranged moves.
Yeah.
And he gets up there, he forgot everything. And so they failed him. And so obviously through perseverance, he went back and, attained his black belt. But come to the United States, he started winning a bunch of championships and, obviously opened up some schools and were successful.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't know is an actor by the name of Steve McQueen was one of his students.
Okay.
And so Steve McQueen helped him with acting lessons so that he can get started in his acting roles.
Steve McQueen coached Chuck Norris in acting.
He got him acting
lessons.
Yes.
To get him started.
Yeah, he went to Chuck and he was like, hey, well, why don't you try acting? And Chuck was like, no, I don't think acting's me.
Yeah.
And that was before, now you have a lot of action guys doing karate in movies, but that was before anyone really tried to do that.
There wasn't any of that
That's right.
in the films at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he and Bruce Lee were sort of the first two to do that, right?
Yes.
And they were friends.
Right. So, basically, Bruce was doing those chains. He was doing, I think it was Return of the Dragon.
Okay.
I think that's the one that the two of them are in. And at the time, Chuck was the champion of the world in karate. And Bruce wanted to beat him in a movie.
Okay.
So basically, he called Chuck and was like, hey, I want you to be in this movie with me. We're going to have the most epic fight scene that's ever been done. And so Chuck says, well, who gets to win? He's like, I am. I'm the star. So
I want you in the most epic fight scene, and I'm going to beat you in front of everybody.
That's right. But they did work out a lot, and they actually became really good friends. And I know Mr. Norris really respects Bruce Lee and his abilities and his teaching abilities and just, his forethinking on things. And he says he was, beast working out and stuff. Yeah. So
he was basically the OG of MMA, really. I mean, he was the one.
For back then.
For back then.
Jeet Kune Do. Well, Chuck's system. He has his martial arts system is called the Chuck Norris system, and basically it's a collective of a lot of different styles. He implemented a lot of elbows, eye strikes, leg kicks, takedown, jiu-jitsu. Like he believes in mixed martial arts pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I love it when people have an open mind and continue to evolve and add stuff. And if somebody comes out with something new, let's learn that too.
That's right.
If it works, let's plug it in.
That's it.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. So Mr. Norris had a rough upbringing, and that was sort of the forethought on like, hey, let me help some other kids that have a tough family situation like I did.
He was thinking, man, if karate could do this for me at this age, because, he's 20 at this point.
Right.
He's like, man, imagine if I had this when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then he was like, well, what about all the other kids that were like me that didn't have money, that grew up poor? I mean, he was so poor that he basically had an outhouse. That's where they used their bathroom. He had an outhouse. Just trying to, paint a picture on,
his living situation.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, if all these other kids that can't afford a good martial arts program, what if they could? how would this better, the communities and these kids' lives? And so that's what made him really want to do this.
That's cool. What a cool success story. Somebody, rough childhood, rough upbringing, finds success, goes to the military, gets some structure, finds some success in a sport, becomes really good at that, and then starts training some actors, get him into acting, becomes one of the top, action actors of his time. Ending, I guess, I don't know if Walker was the last thing he did, but probably one of the last things I remember more impactful. I know he's been in Expendables and all that stuff too, but that Walker character being someone very similar to him and the values that he personally has, being able to get those values out into culture and then backing it up in the school systems. I mean, that's pretty cool, multi-tier approach to making the world a better place.